This is your narrator, Walt Anderson. To understand the significance of North Africa campaign, you must note the Battle of El Alamein 3 months earlier in Egypt. That's where British General Montgomery drove Rommel's forces eastward to Tunisia. Ken lands with Operation Torch on November 8, 1943. But take note where Rommel's forces have been driven to by Montgomery. Ken was driving a Sherman tank. It was good, but had less gunpowder and armor than the German Tiger tank. Furthermore, the U.S. gasoline-powered tank was apt to burst into flames when it was hit. The odds were against Ken and his green, untested tank corps, led by an inexperienced general, facing Rommel's elite Africa Corps. Unfortunately, Major General Lloyd Friedendahl was unable to cope with Germany's top hero, Erwin Rommel, and his Africa forces. After the battle was over, the tide would be turned when the tough and brilliant George Patton took over command. But that couldn't help Ken now, as his tank is badly hit, along with almost 200 others. But just before being hit, they saw a German tank aiming at them. They turned the turret to 10 o'clock. Too late to fire back, but it saved Ken's life. It allowed him to escape from the burning tank moments later. 2 of his 5-man crew were killed instantly. 2 others were actually blown away, landing in the sand miraculously unharmed. Ken, with his face and arms badly burned, joined the other 2 scurrying away from the burning tank. They hopped aboard a passing half-track. A medic hands him gauze and salve. They quickly jump off. Fate was with them again. They watched as a half-track gets hit by a shell, killing everybody left aboard. They dodged through all the turmoil and hid in the brush until darkness set in. Then they walked for over 30 miles, hearing nothing but German voices all night long as they walked. After dark, to avoid Germans on the road, they headed upwards on a Tell Atlas Mountains trail. Badly dehydrated, when they found a small pool of water at the bottom of Dry Creek, they drank without caution. Fortunately, there were no side effects. Reaching the top of the mountain, they saw a battle going on below. Choosing a safer descent route, they reached the bottom hours later. There they found a friendly nomad and his family offering food, water, and even a map drawn on the sand to avoid the Germans. Paralleling the mountains for 3 or 4 hours, they saw no one. Then suddenly, engine noises. They jumped into the brush. It was too late. Warning shots ended their escape. Gestures ordered them to climb into the half-track. Expecting to be shot, they couldn't believe it when a friendly German soldier speaking English offered a cigarette and water, saying he was a New York German immigrant who had answered the Nazi call to fight for the fatherland. Ken is taken to a field hospital, and this is where a German doctor, without any painkiller, rips off the skin from Ken's badly burned hand, arms, and face. The pain was excruciating. However, the process prevented fatal infection from developing later. 2 days later, he is put aboard a hospital ship. Destination Altamura, Italy. Ken spent months recuperating from severe burns. He was well treated by the Italians. On recovery, was sent to North Altamura. This would be Ken's home for the next 2 months. He was treated fine and fed well. Italy was following the Geneva Convention rules. Germany was not. POWs were housed in the shed-like buildings. There were about 5 or 6 per room. They were all within a 2-acre compound, surrounded by a metal fence and a wooden gate. In Ken's 1992 return to Italy, these were the only remains of the 20 by 20 outdoor eating area. Hearing about the Allied landings from their hidden radio, Ken and his 4 roommates decided to escape. Their simple plan included a 15 feet length of wire, then with a rock attached at each end. At midnight, their leader sneaked up to the main gate. He tossed 1 rock over the camp's main wire, which shorted out all lights throughout the camp. In complete darkness, they joined forces, stormed the wooden gate. It easily gave away. In moments, they were free, heading south towards Campo. It's a 1-hour walk. This is where they would hide and plan their next move. And this is what they found, an old abandoned building on the outskirts of Campo. It became their temporary shelter. For safety purposes, they split into 2 groups. Ken and his friend J.B. Tackett in one, 3 in the other group. Locals gave them food, warnings, etc. It was at a great risk to themselves. Even the children acted as scouts. And then, best of all, a tenant farmer, Giuseppe Sandaloni, offers Ken and his partner room and board and safety for working with the crops and farm animals. As winter set in, the Germans left for warmer areas below. Everyone felt safer. Farm chores would now focus on livestock and prep for the spring planting. To lessen future danger, a hut was built a mile up the mountains. This was for Ken and J.B., and when spring arrived, they slept there to lessen the danger on the Sandalonis. Now, during the winter, Germans had left unguarded a storage shed. This prompted the other group that had escaped with Ken into a risk that would bring later reprisals. They broke into the shed, gave all the loot to the locals, and became instant heroes. Ken's new hideout was now essential. There would be new searches in spring when the Germans returned, but luck was with them. Before the searches began, their high altitude proved to be a bonus. A British Spitfire flying by alerted them to look down, and there were Germans on the road far below in retreat. After 3 hours, it was quiet, and Ken shouted to JB, "Let's get the hell down there to meet the guys chasing them." Unfortunately, no time to say goodbye to their wonderful friends who had saved their lives. It took 3 hours to scramble down the mountainside, and then it was 2 more hours of hiking. It was Eureka when a British truck came by and stopped for them. After food, hot showers, and donning British uniforms, they were driven to a railroad where they soon hopped on a boxcar. They were heading for Naples. At Naples, they were back in new uniforms and a ride to his original troop landing area, Oran. Several hours later, they were boarding a naval hospital ship bound for Boston Harbor. Upon arrival, they were transported to the nearest train station. And now, after thousands of miles, 2 ex-prisoners of war, and almost 2 years away from their families, they were ready to hop aboard an old choo-choo train and say, "California, here we come." Ken came home in the summer of 1943. He spent the remainder of the war instructing future Sherman tank drivers at Fort Knox. As of July 2010, Ken is living in Laguna Woods with his lovely wife, Frances. He is 93 years of age and fighting the biggest battle of his life, colon cancer.